Good morning. Welcome to this morning's service. Today is a special service. It is a service that we commemorate the birth of Shinran Shonin. We all have our birthday, and we celebrate our birthday, but this is a birthday that took place centuries ago. I wonder if each of us will be remembered 800 years from today. But even though we may not be remembered, the life that we live will affect the people and the world around us. Just as Shinran Shonin's life affected so many millions of people in his wake, your life too will touch the lives of many other people. Today, we especially remember the birth of Shinran Shonin in this Gotan-E service. We'll begin with Sambujo, followed by the reading of Junirai.
전혀 탱큰 것이라 공아 전하이 미나손 간논 전하이 간지어줌 스즈면서 하셔건 너분의
Namanda, 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 Namanda. Once again, good morning. Welcome to this morning's service. It is, as I mentioned, a service that commemorates Shinran Shonin's birth. When we think about his life, was so long ago, right? 800 years ago. So many things were happening in his lifetime. Japan was undergoing great changes. It was on the dawn of the Kamakura period that would dominate Japan's political environment for the next several hundred years. It was also a time of kind of a creative burst of creativity, especially within the Buddhist tradition. So there were others alongside in Shinran's time that were rethinking how Buddhism might be shared and taught and understood. So his teacher, of course, Honen Shonin, had left Hieizan years before and had begun to share his understanding through Jodo Shu. I believe Honen also didn't really intend to start a new school, but new school eventually arose, and it was a way of understanding Shakyamuni Buddha and his and Shakyamuni Buddha's descriptions of Amida Buddha. And Honen Shonin understood these teachings and all of the commentaries and writings about the sutras that Amida Buddha and the Pure Land are contained. Shinran, of course, studied with Honen, and later he continued to deepen his appreciation for what he learned from his teacher Honen. But there were also other teachers, kind of in that same time period. There were people like Ippen, who was a traveling itinerant monk, who went about sharing. I think he didn't have a school that he kind of belonged to, or a temple that he belonged to, but he just traveled Japan, sharing his appreciation of the Nembutsu. So it was a real, kind of, I don't know if I could call it exciting, but certainly it was a time in which many things were happening, both within the politics of Japan at that time, but also with the understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. In that kind of a exciting time, Shinran lived his life, and I think we don't think about how uncertain Shinran's life was. Not so much a threat to his life, well, certainly there was that as well, but how uncertain his life would be. His family, in the stories of Shinran's entry into the monastery, we understand that his parents had passed away by the time he was age 9, and he wrote this poem before his ordination, asking that he be ordained that evening rather than wait to the next morning. That kind of uncertainty was not just in Shinran, but in the world around him, the world in which Shinran lived. Things were changing. not just the war and the arguments between the clans, but also a very rich and fertile time in which people's understanding of the Buddha Dharma was growing, was being reimagined, how to understand what the Buddha shared so many years before. And now here we are, 800 years after Shinran. And what do we remember of what Shinran's life was like? What do we remember of what Shinran shared of his understanding of the teachings of the Buddha? 800 years ago, Shinran went through this very kind of challenging life. The religious group that he belonged to under Honen was banned. A couple of his fellow monks were executed. Shinran was sent to Echigo, and his teacher Honen sent to Tosa. And so, after he left Mount Ie and he settled under the teachings of Honen, the group was once again was broken up, and his life was disrupted. He lived in a very challenging time, and I think we need to think about that too. That when as we experience our lives, the uncertainty or the challenges that we are faced with, the politics and the ecology and the uncertainty of how these events will play out in our lives, we can think about the challenges that Shinran faced in his life, and how was he able to what was he able to find that gave him a sense of well-being, that he was able to live his life with a sense of gratitude and appreciation for all that he experienced, and most of all, for the assurance of Amida Buddha. It's this assurance that I think sometimes we jump to too quickly. We see, and there's no question that Amida Buddha assures all beings of the resolution of difficulties. But I think if we consider the life of Shinran, the hardships that he faced, and in the midst of this was able to live a life of gratitude, of kindness, that it may give us some hint that perhaps it's not just about seeing the Nembutsu, going to the Pure Land, but that is connected to what we are experiencing in this world at this time. When we look around in our world, it seems so chaotic, so many things going on. But it was that way, I think, in Shinran's time as well. And in the midst of that chaos, Shinran found a sense of well-being, an appreciation for what he was able to experience, and a deep connection to the world around him. Today, as we remember Shinran's birthday, we celebrate his birthday, observing this Gotan-E Service. And we say Namo Amida Butsu in gratitude and appreciation for the teachings, the understanding of the Buddha Dharma that Shinran opened up for us, so that we too could feel that same sense of belonging, same sense of well-being, same sense of gratitude and appreciation that he had not so many years ago. It seems like a long time ago, 800 years, a very long time ago. But the importance of what he shared, that the vow of Amida Buddha affirms all of us as we are of the eventual experience of enlightenment, that assurance allows us to look more openly at our lives, what we're able to enjoy, the deep connections we share with the life around us, and the feeling of compassion, of gratitude, of kindness that we have for the life that supports and nurtures and cares for each of us. Namo Amida Butsu, a response to Amida Buddha's compassion, as well as the life that sustains us, the life that we are deeply connected with. Today, as we observe this Gotan-E service, we're certainly mindful of Shinna's life. But just like Shakyamuni Buddha, who near the end of his life said, "When I die, let the teachings be your guide." Shinran Shonin's life came to an end so many centuries ago, but we are able to still learn from what he shared, be able to appreciate the life that we are a part of through what he had to say to all of us. Thank you very much for joining this Gotan-E service this morning. I think at this time we'll have a Gatha.
Dharma school is over for another day. Let us gather round the shrine, bow our heads and say, thank you, teacher, for your help. Thank you, everyone. Buddha's love will keep us safe till our work is done. So we'll meet again next week. Won't you take good care? Let us try to do what's right, always kind and fair. We shall spread the happiness faith in Buddha brings. Now it's time to say goodbye till we meet again. Namo Amida Butsu, sing this fine refrain. Namo Amida Butsu, sunny day or rain. Namo Amida Butsu, strong in faith remain. Namo Amida Butsu, till we meet again.
Thank you, everyone. If you please join in Kansho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Bye-bye. See you next time. Good morning and welcome to this morning's Gotan-E Service. Prior to this, we had a brief infant presentation service that is held every year in conjunction with this Gotan-E, which celebrates, of course, the birth of Shinran. It's wonderful to be able to remember someone after so many hundreds of years, but his contributions to our understanding of the Buddha Dharma and understanding of ourselves and our relationship to the world around us is so profound that we are grateful for what Shinran Shonin has left for us. And we celebrate his life and we celebrate his birth at this Gotan-E service. We'll begin the service with Toraiban and the reading of the Sambujo, followed by Hyobyakumon that states what we're about to observe, and then the reading of Juseige. So if you please join us now as we observe this Gotan-E service. The members of the San Jose Betsuin have reverently come before me, the Buddha, with deepest reverence and thankfulness for the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of Amida. We reaffirm the three homages. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance.
Tsunamanda, 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 Tsunamanda.
Will you please join now in the reading of the three treasures? Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. May we absorb ourselves in I take refuge in Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Again, welcome to this morning's Gotan-E service. It is one of several major services that we observe throughout the year. And these major services commemorate important times of our tradition. In January, we have our Hoonko service, a service that remembers the death of Ashina Shonin. Today, we observe and celebrate his birthday, and we are grateful for what we have received from his instructions. Today, as our guest speaker, Reverend Rinban, Bill Briones, will give the Dharma message. Briones Sensei is the Rinban of the Los Angeles Betsuin. He's been there for quite a while, has handled a great many responsibilities. They're even more busy than we are here in San Jose. They are a smaller Sangha, but still they're very busy because of the community that surrounds the Betsuin. And Briones Sensei is constantly engaged with that community. But he has taken time in his busy schedule. He's recorded a message for us, and at this time we'll hear Reverend Briones' Gotan-E Service message.
Please join me in Gassho. Amida's permanent vow does not discriminate between the young and the old, good and evil. True entrusting alone is essential. The reason is that the vow is directed to the being burdened with the weight of a karmic evil, burning with flames of blind passions. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Thank you, Reverend Sakamoto, for inviting me this morning to share the Dharma with your Sangha on such an auspicious occasion. I don't know about San Jose Betsuin, but here in Los Angeles, we're just starting coming back to the temple for Sunday services. And many of our affiliate organizations have returned to their regular activities. Actually, we're still Zooming many of our meetings in the evening, which has been working out pretty well. So this morning, I'd like to share some of my thoughts with you during this Gotan-E service. It was 849 years ago that Shinran Shonin was born. And as you know, Shinran was the founder of our tradition. During his lifetime, Shinran had lived somewhat of a scarce life. He claimed to have no disciples and no teachers of his own. All he had done was to convey and attempt to clarify what he had learned from his teachers. And despite his humble character, Shinran's empathy for people from all walks of life had drastically changed the course of Buddhism and society in Japan. And obviously, his life has had a tremendous impact on my life. I was born and raised Catholic and wasn't introduced to Buddhism until I met my high school sweetheart, whom I married right out of high school almost 55 years ago. When I started to attend service at Mountain View Buddhist Temple, I didn't know the difference between Shakyamuni Buddha and Amida Buddha, let alone the teachings of Shinran Shonin. My path here has been exciting and an incredible journey. Actually, the time after taking an early retirement in July of 1994, meeting my future wife in 1996, to the time I was assigned to the Betsuin in June of 2001, went by pretty quickly. And I've definitely learned more about myself, good and bad. I've learned of my shortcomings too. I've come to realize how fortunate I am. I've been so fortunate to have been given the opportunity to study and deepen my understanding of the Nimbutsu teaching. I was able to attend IBS for 3 years, and then I was able to attend Chobukyo Gakuin, the seminary in Kyoto, where I received my Tokodo and Kyoshi ordinations. The 3 years spent in Japan was long and frustrating. I missed my family. The weather was unbearable at times. The summer months were extremely hot and humid, and the winters were freezing cold and wet. I was truly unaccustomed to the Japanese way of life, and of course, the biggest problem for me was the language. Every day I struggled. Believe me, it is a humbling and at times humiliating experience not being able to communicate. But I must admit, it was an invaluable and wonderful experience to be in the Kansai area, to live and experience the birthplace of Jodo Shinshu. I had an opportunity to visit Shinran's birthplace, Hokai Temple, a Shingon temple, and just to the rear of Hokai Temple is another temple named Tanjo Temple that Nishi Honganji built during the Meiji era. And within the simple temple grounds, there is a bronze statue of an 8-year-old Shinran. And on the pedestal is engraved Shinran's poem that he composed on the spot, which convinced the monk Jien to ordain Shinran a monk immediately, instead of the next day. Cherry blossoms that are felt to last till the morrow, may well blow away during the night. It wasn't so much visiting the many historical sites, it was experiencing some of the same conditions that influenced Shinran and Renyo, like the inclement weather conditions, the beautiful spring blossoms and the radiant fall colors, or the distance they had to travel. For example, the distance and the rough terrain that Shinran traveled when he came down from Mount Hiei to Rokwaku Temple, where he began his 100-day vigil, or the distance from Kyoto to Echigo, where Shinran was exiled to. The teachings of Shinran and the work of Renyo came alive. However, it was all within the context of the Japanese history, culture, and society. One of my first Federation Dharma School teachers' conferences that I attended, the workshop leader handed out a 2-page survey on Jodo Shinshu. One of the questions was, true or false? Jodo Shinshu is for Japanese. I looked around the room, and being the only non-Japanese at the conference, I answered true. This has always been an issue with me. From the very beginning, I always wondered how much of me had to become Japanese to be Jodo Shinshu. As you know, I'm half Mexican and half Filipino, and I'm very proud of my ethnic background. It wasn't always that way. Growing up as an ethnic minority was not too cool. Be that as it may, it was a long journey from being ashamed to being proud of who I am. When I came back from Japan, I was greeted by someone who said, maybe you should cut your mustache off. You look too Mexican. And I responded, well, maybe because I am Mexican. The opening reading I began with is from the Tanisho. Amida's primal vow does not discriminate between the young and the old, good and evil. True and trusting alone is essential. The reason is that the vow is directed to the being burdened with the weight of karmic evil and burning with flames of blind passion. For me, this highlights the spirit and perspective in which Shinran related to the people of his time and how it continues to be relevant today. It was out of the compassion for all suffering beings that the Bodhisattva Dharmakara established the 48 vows and became Amida Buddha. Of the 48 vows, the 18th vow became the most important to the Pure Land Buddhists, since it promises birth into Amida's Pure Land for those sentient beings of the 10 quarters, with sincere mind, entrusting themselves aspiring to be born in my land and say my name perhaps even 10 times. However, many Westerners find it difficult to accept this cosmological story, which took place several kalpas ago. For me, my understanding of the Dharmakara is that he is a mythical hero. His story represents the deepest aspiration of the human heart, that someday all of us will be free from suffering. Amida is a symbol of reality that points to our interdependence to all things and the need to share with others. So for me, the heart and soul of the Nembutsu teaching is Amida's primal vow. This is the most important principle of Jodo Shinshu. Shinran's understanding of the primal vow sets us apart from all Buddhists. When the Dharmakara made his vow, he said, if, when he becomes Buddha, all beings do not experience the same realization, then he would not accept the highest enlightenment. The Dharmakara points out that salvation is not a private matter, a selfish pursuit merely to save oneself. Jodo Shinshu as a way to enlightenment must include others and work on their behalf, or else there can be no meaning to the vow. And I take this to heart. Amida's primal vow does not discriminate between the young and the old, the good and the evil, the rich and the poor, the gay and straight, Japanese and American, black and white. If it doesn't include them, there can be no meaning to Amida's salvation. It is within Amida's primal vow we become aware of the intimate interconnectedness with others. To realize this interdependence is to have a deep and abiding sense of responsibility for and concern for our fellow human beings. If Jodo Shinshu is to survive in America, we must teach Jodo Shinshu within an American context in a way that all Americans can understand and experience the Nembutsu As Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, our primary concern is our own personal awakening to the spiritual truth of interdependency. I believe we must think for ourselves and act accordingly based on our own personal and spiritual insights. However, if one truly awakens to the reality of Amida's primal vow, one cannot help but share this awareness and joy derived from the teachings. It is within our teachings that we become aware of the intimate interconnectedness with others. And to realize this interdependence and equality is to have a deep and abiding sense of responsibility for and concern of our fellow human beings. Therefore, all beings are equally embraced by Amida Buddha. I truly believe that Jodo Shinshu is a universal faith. It is a world religion with the potentiality to bring insight and wisdom to the suffering of humanity. As Shin Buddhists, we have an obligation to share our knowledge and wisdom to all people, transcending national cultures, cultural boundaries, ethnicities, gender, LGBTQ, economic standings. Everyone is included. Today, we are fortunate to be able to receive the benefits of Shinran's insights and understanding. Gotan-E is a time to acknowledge his unique contribution and an opportunity for us to rejoice in the same peace of mind as he. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you this morning, and please continue to be safe, and hopefully I can come back in person when this is all over with. Please join me in Gassho. Amida's primal vow does not discriminate between the young and the old, good and evil. True entrusting alone is essential. The reason is that the vow is directed to the being burdened with the weight of karmic evil and burning with the flames of blind passion. Namo Amida Betsuin. Namo Amida Betsuin. Namo Amida Betsuin. Namo Amida Betsuin. Thank you.
Thank you, Briones Sensei. It's really a pleasure to be able to hear the Dharma message from Sensei. His experience as a lay leader for many years, and then becoming a minister so many years ago, has, I think, provided him with experience and insight to deep appreciation of the Nembutsu. I want to thank Sensei again for sharing that with us. Thank you very much as well to everyone who joined today's Gotan-E service. Hopefully next year we'll be able to gather together in person to celebrate, to be mindful of Shinran's life, to enjoy our company together. Thank you again. As we conclude, we will conclude with Gatha. So,
Softly blew the breezes on the glorious morn. In Lumbini's garden, where the Lord was born. From the earth sprang flowers, virgin warblers sang. While through earth and heaven strains of music rang, gods and men and
Thank you, everyone. If you please join in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.